as we determine what's the minimum amount of speech, we try to think of it realistically, right? So we've found that in testing, the minimum, and I don't think this will surprise anyone, is 3 syllables, and it's not a coincidence that that's how many syllables are in Alexa and Hey Google and who's the other? I don't know what Microsoft's wake word is, but it's essentially the same thing, right? It's designing for one breath utterances. So that's that's where you kind of aim to, right? But the reality is your device, the background noise, everything influences it, right? You could have someone do it 3 times perfectly and then they call from a convertible and a Bluetooth, phone, and they're like, I don't know why it doesn't work. So I think we also have to account for, that's working under optimal conditions, and we could all debate on equal error rates all day. We see it differently. We see as how do I authenticate or how do I find fraud in a life cycle of a phone call? We can do it without any voice. So again, going back to that multimodal or multi-factor, 80% of IVRs aren't voice enabled, right? So what do you do with that? You can't get 45 net seconds of speech out of someone not saying anything. So you have to look at other factors, right? So we can use metadata analysis, and actually we could authenticate at some level 70% of people that call in based on if you have their phone number on file, just because we can vet the caller ID essentially. We can say, hey, that caller ID, it's not spoofed, there's no risk. So yeah, if you just want to let them check their balance, things like that, that goes ahead. Other things like enrollment rates, it varies on how often your callers call back in, right? So retailers, how many people call Home Depot more than once in their lifetime? Probably not too many. So you have to think about, well, what does the enrollment process look like? And I'm going to go back to best practices for a second. If you just roll out voice biometrics and just say, okay, everyone enroll now, there's a couple things wrong with that. One, you could, without any risk validation of who's enrolling, you don't know who's enrolling the first time. So you could be enrolling a fraudster. Secondly, also, if you have to spend, 45 seconds or, have someone repeat the same phrase in an active situation, if your goal is to reduce average handle time, that's really going to blow the metrics out of the water, because now you have to take an additional 2 minutes to stop and explain what they're doing, how many times, what they have to repeat. So we don't really see that as optimal. So our solution really just, it's passive like the other ones I've mentioned. We just stitch however much speech we get together, and the more they talk, the more we have on file. But we're also looking at device printing, metadata analysis, and all those combined. So even if they don't talk through the entire conversation, there's still elements there that we can say, yeah, this person is who they're claiming to be.